Hi everybody, this is Miss Nicole with Bloomfield Public Library. Welcome to my latest edition of Science Bytes. Today we are going to do one of my very favorite subjects, which is bubbles. And I'm going to give you my foolproof, very simple recipe for a bubble solution. And then I'm going to show you how to make a supersized bubble outside in the yard, perfect for gorgeous weather days like this. And it's very easy to make using a few simple materials you probably have lying around the house. But to get us started, I'm going to tell you exactly what we need to make our perfect bubble solution. Now, for the perfect bubble solution, what we really need are 3 cups of distilled water. You can buy this in the food store. This is actually called purified water. It's the same thing, distilled or purified water. 1/4 cup of dish soap. You do not want to use laundry soap or other soaps. It has to be dish soap. And there's something about Dawn dish soap that's just a little bit better than all the other soaps. So if you can get your hands on Dawn dish soap, that's the best. Doesn't matter what color or scent, but other dish soaps will work too. But Dawn is your best one. And then this is the secret ingredient. You want 2 tablespoons of glycerin. And glycerin is actually something you would find in a drugstore like a CVS or a Walgreens. And this is not an ingredient that you absolutely have to have, but it's a really fantastic extra ingredient that makes your bubbles last just a little bit longer. So if you can get your hands on some glycerin, that'll make even the best recipe of a bubble solution. If you can't, that's okay. It's not going to mean that you can't make bubbles. And I have to tell you, when I'm doing my bubble solution, I almost never have distilled water on hand. So I use tap water, and I use whatever dish soap I have lying around. And if I'm lucky enough to have glycerin, I add that too. But again, it's an optional ingredient. You don't have to have it. So here, I've actually made an entire tub of my own bubble solution, and I just store it in a Tupperware container. I did once store it in an old coffee can, and that became a mess. The coffee can rusted and the solution got really gross looking. So I would recommend keeping it in Tupperware if you've made a big bunch of the solution. And with bubble solution, interestingly enough, it works best if you mix all the ingredients together and then let it sit by itself for 24 hours. It works best if you let it sort of cure for 24 hours and let all those ingredients start to meld together. Then you get a really strong, nice bubble solution. It will work if you use it right away, but it's going to be better if you give it just a little time to cure and let all those ingredients meld together. So now, let's take a look at what we can do with the bubble solution before we get to our super giant bubble wand. Okay, so we're going to do this portion inside today because it's a little windy outside, and when I tried this outside earlier, all my bubbles were popping and I couldn't show you anything. So for this portion, you will need a plate, preferably not a paper plate because we are going to get it wet and a paper plate would get a little soggy. You're going to need some sort of bubble solution. Hopefully you tried making your own homemade solution and you've had it sort of sitting around for 24 hours, letting everything meld together. But if you didn't have a chance to make your own and you have some other bubble solution at home, that's fine too. You can play with that too. You will also need some sort of a wand, and you can use something as simple as a straw. A lot of people have straws at home, or if you've invested in some science pipettes, you can take one of your pipettes and just snip the bulby end off the end so it's open. And now this is the perfect bubble wand, and that's probably what I'm going to use. You stick the round open part into the bubble solution and you blow through the narrow end, the narrow other end. So one of the key things to remember about bubbles is that they do not like dry things. If your bubbles come in contact with something dry, they will go bye-bye. They like things that are wet. Water molecules want to stick to other water molecules. So as a demonstration, so this is a dry plate, I'm going to try and blow a bubble onto the plate that's dry. I'm going to stick the wide end of my pipette that's open now into the bubble solution. I'm just going to try and blow something right onto the plate. It may or may not stick. We'll see. Let's see. And see, it popped right away. So now, if I actually take some of this bubble solution, I'm going to pour it onto my plate. There we go. And I'm going to swirl it around a little. So now the surface of my plate is covered in bubble solution. Now I predict that when I blow my bubble onto this plate, my bubble is going to stay because it's going to be wet on wet. Those water molecules are going to attach to each other. So let's see. And look at that. My bubble stayed. Let me see if I can bring it up close. There we go. But if I touch it with something dry again, like the straw, it pops. But if I touch it with a wet bubble wand, I'm going to be able to push that bubble wand straight into the center of the bubble and blow a bubble inside a bubble. Let's try it out. There's my, oop, a little windy. There's my bubble. My wand in the center. Whoop, my bubble actually split into two bubbles. But I can stick it inside again, right into the center. And now I've got a bubble inside a bubble. Well, it actually rotated again. Now you can play with this. You can see how many bubbles within a bubble you can blow. I've had kids who have created a mountain of bubbles on their plates because the bubbles just keep attaching to each other and forming a big tower of bubbles. But one of the other things that I wanted to show you real quickly is how you can actually touch a bubble and hold a bubble in your hand. And all you need to do that is one of these very simple cotton knit little gloves that you get at the winter time. You want to make sure that it's clean because bubbles also don't like dirt and other things. But as long as this cotton glove is clean, this will work. Because one of the things that, another reason why bubbles break apart when we touch them is because we have oils in our hands. Our hands don't seem oily, but that's how our skin stays flexible. And when those bubbles come in contact with the oils in our hands, they also pop. Oil and water do not mix. But if you put on this cotton glove, then you are able to hold on to a bubble. So I'm going to slip this onto my left hand, like so. And now I'm going to blow a bubble directly into the palm of my hand, and I might even be able to bounce it around. Let's see. There we go. Look at that. And again, whoop, popped right there. Eventually the bubbles will pop, even if you have glycerin in your bubble solution, because bubbles are delicate. We can try and make them a little stronger. One of the things that makes bubbles pop so easily is that they're mostly made of water, and water evaporates very quickly. So as that water evaporates, the strength of that surface tension disappears and that bubble pops. Glycerin helps to prevent it from coming apart a little longer, but they will pop eventually because they are delicate. So now I'm going to take you outside so we can talk about the giant bubble wand. Okay, now that we have finished with the indoor bubble portion, because I couldn't do it outside with all of the wind, I'm going to show you how to make the perfect and simple bubble wand to make gigantic bubbles, and then I'll show you it in action. So what you're going to need is some yarn or some string or some thread, just something that you can tie. You could use twine even, I think, but yarn is probably your best and your simplest. Doesn't matter what color, you can mismatch colors. You'll also need 2 sticks of some kind. You can use sticks from the yard. I always like to just grab a couple of pencils because I always have a billion pencils lying around. You can use 2 chopsticks. You just need something sturdy that you can hold on to and tie something to. And you need something that's a little bit of a weight. So I'm going to pull out my trusty hex nuts. And the nice thing about these is that you can there's a hole in them. So you can easily put the yarn through it. You could use a washer. You have to be able to to get the yarn or the thread to go through it so it hangs like a weight. So you're actually going to cut 2 different lengths of yarn. The first one is going to be, maybe about this long. You don't want to go a full double arm's length, but just about enough so that you can hold your 2 arms sort of off to the side like this. So I'm gonna, with a little extra for tying knots. So I'm gonna do about this much. All right. And you're going to tie this yarn, one piece of this yarn to one pencil and one piece of the yarn to the other pencil. And you want to try and tie it as tightly as possible, and definitely do at least 1 knot because you want it to stay on the pencil. And if you need help, you can have someone hold the pencil for you, or you could have somebody else tie the yarn while you hold the pencil. Okay, so I've got my first part here. Now this next piece of yarn is going to be a little longer because it's actually going to droop down with our weight. So we're going to do one a little bit longer than the one we just did. So now I'm going to do, let's see, maybe a piece of yarn that is like a full arm's length. Let's do that. I'm going to put my yarn down. And now again, you're going to put your weight on this yarn. So I'm going to take one of my hex nuts and see how my hex nut is going to hold that yarn down. And now you're going to tie each end to the pencils again. So here comes my first one. Now I'm going to tie it to the second pencil. Remember to knot it because you want it to stay in place. If you find it slips off of your stick or your pencil or your chopstick, you can use a little tape to hold it in place. I know when I have used straws before too, and the only downside to straws is that they tend to be a little more slippery, so it's easier for the yarn or the string to come off the end. So here is my giant bubble wand. Now the trick to using this giant bubble wand is you have your bubble solution. You want to make sure you dunk everything into the bubble solution, including the ends of your pencils. You want all of that yarn and everything to get wet. And when you pull it out of the solution, you want to make sure your 2 pencils are together, and then you slowly separate. If you pull it out and quick open it, you're going to lose that bubble solution and it's not going to stay on the yarn. You want to be gentle. So you're going to make sure there's no knots, push it in entirely into the bubble solution, and then when you lift it out slowly, slowly separate it. So now I am going to show you this amazing bubble wand in action out in my yard. I hope you enjoyed bubble science as much as I do. Until my next episode of Science Bites, I hope you have fun making those super-sized bubbles. Bye for now.